Is adding and subtracting decimals. Okay, when adding whole numbers, we always line up our numbers so that they line up based on the place value. For instance, let's look at this example right here. If I have 17, I'm going to go 17 there. That's going to start me off. That tells me that 121 must be lined up like this, 121. Now if I have 1,253, I must line everything up so that the ones positions all line up, tens, hundreds, and thousands. They all have to be in a nice, neat row. Okay, so that when I add, I'm adding everything in the ones, everything in the tens, and so on. Okay, so what does this add to? This is 18, 9, 3, and 1. So 1,398 is what this adds to. But you can see that you have to be neat and orderly in order to get those numbers represented correctly so that, or lined up correctly so that you can add them. Okay, so in adding decimals, we need to line up the number based on the decimal point. So let's do some examples here. If we have 0.72, we're going to line up below it the point. The point is what's going to be lined up, 0.145. Not the end of the numbers like we did above when we're in the whole numbers. That's different. We're actually lining up the decimal because the decimal truly sits at the end of each of those numbers. Even though we never write that decimal there unless we have something that follows it, like we do over here in the You Try It number 1. But still, we were lining up based on the decimal, okay, even though you didn't know that. Okay, now when you're adding here, put 0 in as a placeholder just so that you fill in all the blanks. Okay, it kind of helps when adding. Okay, so here we'll end up with 5, 6, and 8. So we get 0.865. So this is equal to 0.865. So it's easiest to add them when they're stacked on top of each other to add. Okay? How about this one? We've got 5.18. We've also got 0.3. And we've got 4.216. So I want to fill in all the places that are missing values, like here. I'm going to go out to the furthest position. We have a total of 3 decimals in one of them. So go out to a total of 3 decimal places just to give yourself all those values so that you're not adding the wrong numbers together. Okay? So in adding this, we get 6, 9, 6, and 9 there. So this is 9.696. Okay? Let's move on to the You Try It number 2. Here we're going to be subtracting. How do we go about subtracting? Well, subtraction is just the same. Again, line up your numbers based on your decimal point. Okay, and then you subtract as you would any whole numbers. Okay, by borrowing if you have to, any of that. So 9 take away 8 is 1, 8 take away 2, drop your decimal. Don't forget to drop that decimal down. 8 take away 2 is 6, and that's 4. So there you got 46.1 is what you get when you subtract. Okay, how about this one? 4.358, and you're going to subtract off 1.3. Put zeros in for the placeholders, and then what you'll see is that, oh, well, 8 take away 0 is just 8. And then you have the 5 there, 0 there, and write your decimal down, and then 3. So this is equal to 3.058. Okay? And finally here, 6.1, subtract off 4.43. Again, put your placeholder there of a 0. And in this case, you can't subtract 3 from 0, so now we're doing the borrowing. Okay, so here we've borrowed. We've got now 10, so that gives us 7. Well, now we've got to borrow again, okay, to give us the 10 there. So there we've got 6 and 1. So we get here 1.67. All righty. So now let's evaluate these. These now are going to be using kind of the tools that we did with signed numbers. We learned that early on in the semester. So looking here at these two numbers, we go, okay, this number, 0.27, is positive, and this number right here is negative. So they're opposite in sign. So that tells you that you would subtract the two numbers from one another. Okay, oops, let me write this in here correctly. What you do is you subtract you take the bigger number and you subtract the smaller number from it. Well, the bigger number here is 1.6. You want to subtract from it 0.27. Okay, so let's slide the 0 in, give us the placeholder. Okay, borrow here, and we get 3, 3, and the decimal there, and 1. Okay, so there's the value that we've got, 1.33. Is it positive or negative? Well, the larger number carried the negative sign, so in that case, that's negative. Do you remember that rule? That rule was back in, I think it's chapter 1, okay, is where that rule came from. Okay, that if the signs are different, then you subtract the numbers and you carry the sign of the larger number. How about this one? This one, both of them have the same sign. When they both have the same sign, you add the values, add those numeric values together. Okay, and what we get out here is 9.0, so this is 9. We don't need the 0.0, right, because it's a 0 after the decimal, so we get 9, but is it positive or negative? Well, since both of them were negative, we're going to hold on to the sign that they share. Now this one, look here, this negative right here, do you remember me saying that make it a happy face? Okay, when we make that happy face, that tells us that this is a plus. That's 0.45 plus 0.29 is what the problem becomes. So let's write that out, 0.45 plus 0.29. And so adding those together, what you get out is 0.74. Okay, and since both of them were positive, then we get that positive result. Okay, so let's get into a couple of application problems. You try it. Number 5 says, at Holly's Cafe, Holly requires the waitresses to add the tabs by hand. It gives an old-fashioned touch to the service. Okay, one tab had the items shown below. What is the, it might help if I could spell there, total tab for this breakfast? Okay, so notice how everything's nicely and neatly written. Okay, we have the decimal point right there. Okay, so let's start adding. 5, 10, 15, 20, 22. Okay, so we have 22 there. 15, 16. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a total of 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 plus 1 more, that's going to be, or plus 6 now, is going to be 13. 13 plus 9 is going to be 22. Again, okay, and so then we have 7 there, 7 plus 4, 11, 13, 14. $14.22. So what we have to write, you have to remember that if we're in a word problem, what it would be is the total tab is $14.22. Okay? So that's that. That's the you try it, number 5. Make sure you're writing it in a sentence. It doesn't have to be a perfectly complete sentence. It just has to show that you have an understanding of what the problem was asking you for. And also you use the unit of measure. In our case, that was dollars. Okay? Tanya, you try it, number 6, is Tanya bought some school supplies from the college bookstore. The total with tax came to $9.15. Tanya paid with a $20 bill. How much change will Tanya get back? Well, if Tanya paid with a $20 bill, isn't that $20? And you have 20.00, and you want to subtract from it $9.15. Again, lining up your decimal there. Okay, now we have to come out and borrow all the way out here. So we have to come back there. There we get 5, 8, 0, and 1. So we end up with Tanya's change is $10.85. Okay, and so that's how you'd represent that. Okay, that's the end of the section, so good luck, and I will see you next time.